Welcome, everyone, to Fantasy Six Packs, 2 off the tee. I am your host, Keith Flemming. My good buddy and co-host, Ryan Mulvey, is not here tonight. He is celebrating his anniversary with his lovely wife, Beth. I can't believe he was thinking about doing a golf show, guys, over coming and spending time with this ugly mug. So luckily, he made the right decision and is hanging out with his wife. Good for you, Ryan, but happy anniversary to you guys. But have no fear. We have got you covered as we get ready for the PGA Championship Golf Second Major. I got the boys from WeKnowFantasy. We actually just finished recording their podcast covering the PGA, and they've been nice enough to come over on our show and do the same. These guys, the reason we started connecting and stuff was because I'd have to read their stuff and listen to it. They constantly provide winners. That's always fun. But first, let me introduce Nate Brown, who is Mr. WeKnowFantasy, right? Like you're the big wig over there, isn't that right?
I guess so. Yeah, I started that again. It was a fantasy football thing to begin 2017, 2016, somewhere around there is where I started that. And from there, my love of golf kind of took over things. And basically all I do now is golf. But yeah, WeKnowFantasy is kind of my baby.
Well, we love that. He is known, again, for giving winners, but not as many as the other guy recently, because, Jake, you had a double winner, which, I mean, I thought I was a degenerate, but betting on 2, PGA events and a DP World Tour event, like, good for you guys. And you hit both of the PGA events last week, right?
I hit one. I hit the Truist, and then I hit the DP World Tour.
Oh, so you actually hit both on both ponds. That's even more impressive.
Yeah, the DP World Tour is a tough go around. If anyone is interested, it's one of those where your guy could have a lead until the last hole, and he'll shoot a 15 on the last hole and lose. It's one of those that no lead is safe at any time whatsoever. I like to bring up the story. A couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point, when I joined WeKnowFantasy, there was a tournament where a guy was up 5 strokes on the last hole, put it in the water twice, and sunk a 60-foot putt to win. So it's really an experience betting the DP World Tour, but it's been a good go around. Nate has hit a ton of winners. I've hit a ton of winners. It's all been good. Golf is great, and it's our favorite thing to talk about.
And you guys got a free Discord too, right? You want to tell everybody about that real quick?
Yeah, we got a free Discord. It's primarily golf, but there's some other sports in there. It's a great community of over 250 members. I think we're approaching 300 now. A mix of people, professionals, people who just love the game of golf, but conversation going at all hours of the day. There's a lot of great segments in there. The community wage tracker, shout out to Nate who keeps up with that. If you're interested in sharing your plays, you put them in there, and Nate combines them before the tournament starts. So you could see an active tracking list of who's on what players. And at the end of the day on Sunday, it's usually, sharing some congratulations to at least some people in the Discord. So completely free to join. You can reach out to Nate or myself, and we can get you the link to join that.
That's awesome. I highly recommend you do that. Again, these guys provide a ton of great information. Want to say what's up to Jamie, who is saying that it is 15, basically his average score for each hole that he plays. And then the CEO of Fantasy Six Pack in the chat, actually watching the golf show. Look at Joe Bond, man. One of the most accurate fantasy football rankers in the world. Joe Bond, it is outrageous. First of all, just doing that is outrageous. And then second of all, to consistently be in the top 10, which he is literally every single year. We're here to talk the PGA Championship. I do have to toot my own horn. Last week, 5th winner in the last 9 events with Sepp Straka. Again, I said it on your show. I'm saying it again. I can't guarantee I'm going to keep giving winners at this rate. So while I'm hot, you might as well play my plays. We also had Sepp Straka to top 5 at plus 650, Shane Lowry to top 5 at plus 600, and Keith Mitchell to top 10 at plus 450. So very good week. Very thankful. Actually had a really good DK week, which was awesome because I usually go a little crazy for the majors, and it's nice when you already have a big bankroll in there and you don't have to add any more money. That's always a good thing. But I kind of wanted to start a little bit different. Let's just talk some of the storylines real quick. If I had to say which storyline is most intriguing to you, what would it be of the following options? We have obviously Jordan Spieth going again for the career Grand Slam. We have Rory McIlroy off his Masters win. We've heard a lot of talk of, he's now freed of any pressure, which I want to see that. But I mean, I understand the point, right? Like that it had been so long and everything. He's still on his promise, not like Tiger in 2019. Or would it be Scotty Scheffler 1 year after getting arrested before his round, wrongfully sticking it, to everybody and saying, I'm the man. And also, I think he sent a message a couple of weeks ago. I keep saying this about Scotty. I think he's so much more of a competitor than people give him credit for because he's so quiet. But I think he saw Rory had won 3 times. He won the Masters. For the first time in forever, he was actually really gaining on him in the world golf ranking. And then he went out and just, obliterated everybody. So which of those 3 storylines to you is most intriguing?
Well, obviously, I think it would have to be Jordan Spieth becoming the now 7th man to win the career Grand Slam. And it's so interesting to me that the PGA Championship's the one that eludes him because of, of the 4 majors, none of these are easy, but, historically speaking, this is the easiest of the 4 to win. And having that one to be your lapse is kind of odd to me in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I think there's a chip on Scotty Scheffler's shoulder as much as there has been one, I guess you could say, with the Rory McIlroy conversation and how Scotty Scheffler, I know not many people know about Scotty Scheffler pre-2023. Scotty Scheffler here he became world number 1, and he was for a long time a super hothead on the PGA Tour, super, I don't want to say for a long time because he hasn't been here that long, but across the Corn Ferry Tour and his introduction to the PGA Tour, he was a hothead until he got his current caddy that really settled him down and got him to the swing of things. But Scotty Scheffler is, despite being quiet and humble and everything that he does and how he carries himself, is the biggest competitor on the PGA Tour. He eats, sleeps, breathes golf, and that's, I joke about this all the time when it comes to like the Full Swing on Netflix. They try to include him as much as physically possible because it's Scotty Scheffler world number 1. There's only so many clips you can show of him, either talking about golf or driving to get dinner with his wife. Like that's his entire life. So yeah, I would love to see, I don't know if I'd love to see Scotty Scheffler win, but it's also interesting that he has 2 majors under his belt and they're both Masters and hasn't crossed the finish line elsewhere yet.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Jordan Spieth. I think it would be such an awesome thing for the PGA Tour and just everything to have Rory get the career Grand Slam, followed by Spieth getting the career Grand Slam, one after the other. I'm rooting for him. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later when we get into our DFS selections, but I think it would just be so awesome for the game of golf and just the casual fans who Jordan Spieth is an absolute fan favorite. And it's something that, you might not bet the outright or anything, but it's one of those at the end of the day that you can sit on your couch and smile. Pockets a little bit lighter, but just a great storyline that could be produced this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure about you guys, but when Rory McIlroy won the Masters, I was slightly holding back tears, just as a fan in watching the pure emotion as he collapsed on the green. I think it would be similar for Jordan Spieth because his low has been so low since 2015. He has bottomed out several times. Rory McIlroy's still been around and competing at the highest level since, chasing that Masters and that career Grand Slam. But Jordan Spieth has hit the lowest of lows. So I think that emotion that he would express after winning would, be another one of those watching grown men cry on their couches on a Sunday afternoon.
I am interested to see what Rory does this week because this is a venue that, again, I truly believe if he had not won the Masters, we would have been scoffing at his odds to win this event. And I'm talking about even if they were 7, 8, 9 to 1, right? Because at that point it had been a full 11 years. But I mean, we'll get into again when we get to the plays and stuff, his incredible record at this venue, not only the 4 wins, but just, every metric you want to look at. He talks so much about how the tree line course, shapes the ball. And, he wins this major. I will start, going, maybe he is about to go on a real heater because his all-around game is so much better than it was when he was younger. And obviously he won 4 majors in basically 2 years' time. So, but I do think he needs to win again, like this week, because we've seen this with Scheffler and, obviously the Tiger and stuff, or even Phil went through little stretches where Padraig Harrington, if you can, win 1 or 2, you just start believing more and more. And we know, the game of golf, that's what it's all about, is if you believe that you can win. And obviously when you have that level of talent, it helps, but you can just accomplish so much more. The venue this week is Quail Hollow, which is a PGA Tour staple. I know you guys were talking about that you're not crazy about them doing it at a venue that we see every single year on the PGA Tour. I agree that I like them, changing up the venues just because, I mean, we already have Augusta, right? The Open really only now goes to like 4 or 5 different venues on a regular basis. The U.S. Open appears like they're kind of getting into that same method, but I do think that this is an interesting course just because, we just had the history in 2017 with Justin Thomas winning it. Granted, that was in August, not in May. And I do think the PGA Championships overall have been a lot more entertaining since they've moved to the month of May. You look at like the winners they've had the last 5 years, it's kind of righted what a lot of people called this sort of the random major for a long time. But let's real quickly just go through some trends and stats, and then we can get into obviously the plays. But 6 of the last 12 golfers to win the PGA Championship were first-time major champion winners, 23 of the last 39, which that really stuck out. 7 of the last PGA champions ranked inside the top 35 in driving distance for that season entering the event, which is event has just really became a bomber's paradise. 9 of the last 10 winners, I was kind of shocked and was like, wait a minute, this is correct, were American. And 7 of the last 10 were 30 or younger in age. So you're looking at younger Americans that have really thrived at this venue. 19 of the last 25 PGA Championship winners had a previous win at some point in the season before the PGA Championship. Now, granted, we've only had, I believe, 3 in the 5 years or 2 in the 5 years since they've moved it to May. And this is a little different when, before 2000, basically 19, it was always in August. So you can do what you want with that. And then just like the guys, again, these are Bermuda mixed greens. The guys with the most Bermuda wins on Bermuda grass greens on the PGA Tour right now and in this field: Rory with 11, Scotty with 9, DJ and JT with 7, Sam Burns, Jason Day, John Rahm, and Patrick Reed with 4. The top 10 in course history at Quail Hollow since 2018, obviously when they did the renovation and linked it considerably, it's Rory, Mickelson, Day, Fowler, JT, Reed, Bryson, Sergio, Xander, Mitchell. The kind of big ones I leaned into, obviously the top 10 on approaches of 175 plus yards. This is 56% of the approaches are going to come from this distance. It's Neiman, Victor Hovland, Scheffler, Oberg, Dean Burmster, Kurt Kitayama, John Rahm, Daniel Berger, Brooks Koepka, and Rory. And then another really big one for me was top 10 in strokes gained total over the last 36 rounds in majors, because we have seen these guys really kind of take shape, and these are a lot of the names that you should be playing: Scheffler, Xander, Rory, Bryson, Rahm, Fleetwood, Oberg, Morikawa, Hovland, and Henley was one that kind of surprisingly stuck out to me. But overall, this is a venue that I'm looking for guys that are total drivers, if that makes sense. Yes, Bryson and Rory have huge advantages, and some of these guys that are really long because they can cut corners. But we discussed on the show before, I think the rain is actually going to make it more penalizing when people miss the fairways. And these are considered narrow fairways by PGA Tour standards, definitely. And especially for what this event has been, whether it's been the Quail Hollow or the Truist, much wider fairways for those events. And then because of that, I just think it's going to be tougher scoring, scrambling. Putting is a big deal. I did look again, though, because of, we have all this data. It is important to me that you play well either on this course or other courses like this one, because we know what has typically won here. What were sort of the big stats, trends, et cetera, that you looked into, first when trying to build your lineups and betting cards?
Yeah, so again, I've made a total driving, as you talked about. I know the PGA Tour's website offers a total driving, and that's just a blanket combination of distance and accuracy. So I did one where it was weighted more heavy towards distance because, again, it's a longer driver's game at this point. So I did 75% distance, 25% accuracy, as we talked about with the narrow fairways and, and the penal rough and the rain and all of that. So I started there. And, of course, strong putting. I know you brought the stat up on our podcast where this event and this course where putting is the deciding factor opposed to, say, at Augusta where it's very minimal, comparatively at least. So strong putters, distance off the tee, and, of course, long iron players. I think it was 53% of approach shots will come from 175 plus, a long iron play as well. So those are the big three that I really got into, and then some mixed in with around the green work, things like that. But really, those are the big three I looked at.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I did a nice combination of what you guys said, but just to add a little bit more context, holding these greens are going to be really difficult. So hitting the ball high in the air to hold them or being able to spin your wedges is going to be really important. With the rain, I think on Thursday and Friday, it's going to be a little bit more gettable. But these greens are still going to be really difficult to hold. Don't let the rain fool you. I think that this course is going to play extremely difficult, more difficult than we've seen in the past, because you're going to hit driver, you're not going to get the rollout in the fairways, and then you're going to hit these shots into the green from a further distance than you normally would have, and your ball is still going to roll off. So these guys are going to struggle this week, and that's what we love about major golf. It's not a birdie fest, just watching professionals make a million putts. This course has the potential to make professionals look like, your average Joes, like us on the golf course, 3-putting and just struggling with chipping and and just, having a little bit of a tough time and fighting to save par. So again, bogey avoidance is going to be really important this week too.
Yeah, so the stat that Nate had mentioned, because it blew my mind. I believe this was PGA Splits who had this in his article, John Halsborough, that the last 4 years that this event was played at Quail Hollow, the winners in terms of strokes gain percentages of tee to green and putting, 60% for tee to green, 40% for putting. And then you have, of course, like Augusta National, where you think, well, putting's such a huge factor with those greens and everything. It's 92% strokes gained tee to green there and just 8% putting. So this is not a course where you can just out ball strike people. Obviously, we've seen that, and some people have really popped out because of that. What's going on, Ronnie? Just a few other quick things to think about, and then again, we'll get into some of the DFS and betting plays. But I do think that there is an advantage, especially if you're doing some first round betting, and just it's so important to get off to a good start in these majors. I think starting on the back nine is a big advantage Thursday. I think it's a really big advantage. Jake made the great point that this golf course just punches you in the freaking mouth the first 5 holes, like from the rip. Then you get a little reprieve, and then you have the green mile at the very end. It's one of those that it's so important, these majors, to get off to a good start. I think that they are going to have an advantage. And then I'm also very curious to see the guys that are in groups with these bombers, how they respond if they start cutting the corner, because we've talked about it. You could end up being like 70, 80 yards in front of somebody, especially with the greens playing soft, where they're not going to be able to be that aggressive off the tee, to where Rory and these guys are literally just going to try to blow these bunkers. Bryson, basically any of the guys in the top 20. Another one of those trends, though, again, for this event, both the Quail Hollow and the PGA Championship, is extreme length. I believe Jim Furyk is the only winner of this event to rank outside the top 40 since this event started in 2003 in driver distance for the week. So obviously that's very important. And then again, it's very important to be winning or playing well coming in, because again, over the last 19 years, almost everybody had won at some point before coming into the event. And then again, all but Phil Mickelson finished in the top 30. You had, I believe it was 10 guys, top 5, 3 guys win literally in their start before. So all those things are going to be very important. But more than anything, I'm just excited to see this sort of battle play out, because I feel like golf is in the best place it's been since the split. And even you could argue before then, because I mean, I just don't remember this many like young guys playing well. We forget because Rory's been around forever. He's only 36 years old. Scotty Scheffler is still a very young man. You have all these other young, Bryson's not very old. And then you have all these young kids. Xander still, yeah. I mean, like the best players in the game are not, the veterans to where in the last, 10, 12 years, like Phil didn't win his first major till he was 36. These guys are already doing so much. Before that point. And then you have this next generation that is coming very quickly. I know that David, I think it's Pugh, right? Is how you pronounce it, from the Live Tour. I mean, he's 23 years old. Michael Thorbjornsen's in this field. There's so many young guys that hit it a country mile because they grew up watching the Tigers and stuff in the world, and they just learn, look, if I want to compete, I got to be athletic like that guy. I got to be able to hit the ball a long way, to where used to you had a field of guys that had, different skills. And now it's pretty much every stud that comes on tour, they hit it a really long way. I mean, even the guys like Victor Hovland and stuff that they consider quote unquote short, they drive it like almost 300 yards on the average, which if you'd have told somebody on the PGA Tour 20 years ago that, shorter knockers would be hitting at 300 yards, I don't think they would believe that. But is there anything else you want to say on Quail Hollow, or just like statistics that you're looking into, key stats, before we move on to some DFS plays?
No, just outside of free plug here for WeKnowFantasy.com. If you're ever looking for strokes gained putting per grass type, I keep that data on our website free of charge. Just click on it. And I use that often, almost every single week, for Bermuda, bent grass, POA, all of that, if you're ever looking for that type of data. And of course, this week with the, importance of putting being 40% importance here at this event, not only putting as a whole, but Bermuda specific is something that is definitely of interest as well.
Absolutely. So I don't know. Do you guys do FanDuel? Because I only do DK. I always list DFS, but
it's always DraftKings for me. The FanDuel value or dollar amounts kind of startle me because they're way too high.
This makes me feel good because I've tried to get into it and I just can't. They don't seem to have the variety of single entries too, which I do nothing but cash single entries. It's all I do. I just, again, I know that there's a lot of money to be made, obviously, in these multi-entries, but to me, if you're not putting near or the max amount of entries, you're just, you're like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, or playing the lottery. Exactly.
People playing 50 lineups are going to have every combination possible, and you see it where the winner is split 105 different ways because every combination has been put in 100 times.
So who, because there's three obviously uber expensive guys, Bryson, Rory, Scotty. I think you have to have whichever one of those guys is your favorite in your cash lineups, because I think that they have obviously the three best chances of winning this event. They're the three guys that if they play their A game, good luck to the rest of the field. Which of those do you like the best? And you can obviously include, the pricing, because they are spread out. Scotty's 13-4, Rory's 12-2, and Bryson's 11-5.
Yeah, I would lean Scotty. I mean, a lot of people, when they open this, they kind of just skip over Scotty because he is the most expensive by a country mile every single week. And because they get scared off. So you get a decent ownership number on Scotty, and rightfully so. I mean, if you're saving $1,000 to go down to Rory McIlroy, who at this point is having a better season than Scotty, so be it. But I feel like Rory McIlroy, especially being Quail Hollow, is going to be played heavy, and all three of these guys are going to be played extremely heavy. But I think there's going to be a little bit of an ownership advantage with the Scotty Scheffler because the dollar amount is $1,100 more, and because Rory McIlroy is the number 2 guy.
Yeah, Nate, you covered it. I'm going to be on Scotty Scheffler for that exact reason, right? The outright betting odds on Scotty and Rory are neck and neck, but the DFS pricing is just a huge disparity. I think a lot of people are going to go to Rory. I think a lot of people are going to go to Bryson, and I'm playing it solely on ownership in single entry. But if you are playing in one of those bigger prize pools, which I do have a couple of entries in there, I am fading the top 3. I'm not taking them in any of them, just because I think that probably close to 70% of lineups will have some fashion of one of the 3. So the off chance that, all 3 of them lay a dud, and by lay a dud, I mean finish outside the top 10 or top 5 even, you can find yourself in a very, very profitable position fading all three in a big prize pool. But again, single entry, I agree with Keith. You have to play some fashion combination of them. I know a lot of people are going to try to jam two of them at the top, but I'm going to Scotty.
Yeah, this is tough because I've been saying on this show forever, death taxes and playing Scotty Scheffler in cash. It's something that me and Dave Eddy used to joke about on the DFS football show during CMC's unbelievable season with San Francisco, where no matter what the price was, it's like it's cash. I'm playing CMC. I'm having a hard time deciding because I agree with you about Scotty's going to be less owned. Like, I actually think Scheffler may be low owned this week, even in cash game lineups, because of just the difference in the price. But it's just, again, Rory's track record here is so insane. And again, he's got to feel very good. I loved the way he played last week in the comments that he said last week, where he pretty much said it was a tune-up. It almost sounded a little bit like a Brooks Koepka comment from back when he was winning majors and bunches, where he's like, look, man, like, I'll be here. I have to be here, but I'm here to really work on parts of my game and certain shots, and I'm not here just to win the tournament. And if you look at like Rory's numbers and the key statistics of like strokes gained off the tee, and for me putting, they were still very good. And, you know, I mean, he's top 10 right now in putting on tour, which is just insane to think Rory McIlroy is at that level. I will probably be going with both. I know that's a cheat. From my tinkering, you can do a lineup with both of them. I've done a few. It's just really difficult, kind of from there. So let's go like the range below. Give me one guy kind of from, say, the 9,000 to 10,000 range you like.
I mean, obviously, one of my favorites this week and would fit that bill would be Justin Thomas at 9,900. I'm afraid his ownership number is going to be absolutely insane because he won here in 2017, won at the RPC Heritage not too long ago, and is playing some great golf and plays PGA Tour Championships extremely well. I guess in the grand schemes of trying to find some value elsewhere, I do like either Hideki Matsuyama at 9,400 or Shane Lowry at 9,200. I think those guys could offer some great value. I mean, Shane Lowry has been littering top 5, top 10s. He competed at Valhalla. I think it was a T2 last season or somewhere around there as well. Top of my head, and Matsuyama's kind of a hard DFS play because he's either all in or all out. You know, it's either he has a hot start and keeps going or kind of just fades towards the end. But I think both those guys will give you a decent ownership number away from, say, a Justin Thomas or someone else in that price range.
Yeah, my favorite play, I am hammering him in a ton of my lineups. It's Jon Rahm at 10,200. I do not think he's being talked about nearly enough this week. I think he has 7 straight top 10 finishes on LIV, which, you know, LIV Tour, not as competitive. We know that already, but I think it's still a feat to have 7 straight top 10 finishes. And, you know, a lot of people bet him at the Masters, right? He has the game to win major championships. Yeah, same here. He has the driving distance that you're looking for here. He could, you know, the irons are really where he needs to get it together, but the short game can be elite for Jon Rahm. And I'm not ready to take my finger off the button. I'm projecting him under 10% ownership. So to me, that is where I'm going to be, you know, a little bit overexposed in the DFS market when it comes to Jon Rahm.
Yeah, he's 7th again, 175 plus yards on approaches in this field. So I do agree that I think he's being slept on. He's the guy with most talent. I think he's, you know, been pressing in majors because he wants to prove he is still, you know, one of the best golfers in the world, which I believe he still is. If you just look at his metrics on the LIV Tour, but he's just got to relax. But it could be this week, and I do think he's an extreme value at his price. I think a lot can be said about Xander as well. He's just a little bit more expensive. We were talking about, I think he's going to be low owned when the way he's played overall. But if you look at how he performed at the Masters, which was the biggest event of the year, you look how he played last week, like a lot of his numbers are starting to come around. And he just has, I mean, when you won 2 out of the last 4 majors, you have to feel pretty confident going into every major championship. And he's another guy that, if you don't realize this, he's now one of the longest guys on tour. So the length is not an issue at all for him. But I love, again, two Europeans, both kind of in the low 9K range, and that's Tyrell Hatton and Shane Lowry. My concern with Lowry is just the way he's played recently. Yeah, like it is a little concerning. Have the letdown of last week, and then again, his putting has been pretty shaky. Hatton is somebody who is just, I think he's also being slept on because he's on live and nobody sees him. But this is one of the best ball strikers in the world. He's one of the best long iron players in the world. He drives it when he's on as straight as anybody on the planet. His obviously putter and temper is what's up and down week to week, but I just feel like at 9K, especially with his record in majors and on really difficult golf courses, he's been kind of killing it. Corey, I think, feeling a lot of the way, says the value is cooked at the top of the board. Welcome to golf since DK and FanDuel and all the sports book have taken over. I miss the days of the great betting odds on golf. He's the only really good value. Any 40 or longer y'all will be playing. Corey, we will get to those if you give us about 10 minutes. We're going to get past this segment, and then we're going to go through our whole betting card. So we will take care of you if you don't mind hanging around for just a few, and thank you for listening. Let's go to the next range, like 8 to 9K. I'll go ahead and start. Sepp Straka is the guy that I'm all over. He's 8K. 2 wins, and both on really good golf courses with really strong fields. Not to mention just what he's been doing in general, which is consistently being up there. And when you talk about metrics, it's a nirvana, man. Like, he is top 20 in par 5 scoring. He's top 10 in par 4 and par 3 scoring. He's top 6 in strokes gained tee to green. He's second in strokes gained approach. Just across the board, he is so good, and he is elite from that 175 yard plus number, which he's another one of those guys that's not really considered a bomber, but he hits it far enough, especially with how good he is with his long irons. And I think the way he, again, chipped and putt last week, if he can do that again, he is going to be in contention again this week. And when you talk about confidence, which that's such a big part of, golf at this level, I don't know how there's very few people in the field that are more confident than Sepp Straka entering this week. Who do you guys like in this range?
Yeah, so for me, it's Patrick Reed at 8,100. You talked about being confident in your game. And, anytime Patrick Reed steps on the golf course, he is confident that he is the best golfer in the world, especially at any golf course he steps on. Absolutely love this play. Great value, 8,100. I know, has a good track record at PGAs as well. 53rd last year. Jake loves to talk about throwing a round out, and we're going to do that here, or in this case, an entire tournament. 18th in 2023, 34th in 2022, 17th in 2021, and 13th in 2020. He was 6th of the Truist at Quail Hollow in his last appearance here, 28th in 2019, 8th in 2018. Some good performances on Live, 4th at Korea, 17th Mexico City, 7th in Miami. Finished 3rd of the Masters, and we talk about it. This is a grinder. This guy loves golf, hard golf courses, loves to play hard golf. One of the premier scramblers in the entire world of golf. Multi-time winner on the PGA Tour, former Masters champion, does it all, and just has a swagger and unmatched confidence to himself that he can compete with the best of them. And if it came down to a Sunday and, there's someone next to him that's a little shaky trying to win their first major, I fully believe that Patrick Reed will stomp on him and go on from there.
Yeah, my play in the 8K range is going to be Sungjae Im. I think he's going to come in pretty low owned, and he quietly has some really good Quail history. In 2023 at the Wells Fargo, he finished T8, and then last year he finished T4. So 2 top 10 finishes at this event. It hasn't been a stellar year for Sungjae, so I think that you're going to get some great ownership discount on him. He has the course history, which we mentioned before, is super important at a place like Quail, but he finished T5 at the Masters. He seems to have rounded out a little bit of form coming into the week. He had 11th at the RBC Heritage, and then a T23 last week at the Truist. The irons have kind of been the struggle point for him, but I'm not all too worried. He's a fairway finder with an elite short game, and I think coming in at close to the 5 to 8% ownership range is striking distance for me at a guy at 8,200.
Completely agree. I think a little bit can be said about Russell Henley in the same boat. He's 8,900. The harder you think this course is going to play, the more I like using him, because again, he's just a lot of like the Patrick Reed, somebody who is just so good at scrambling, so good at not making bogeys. He's an elite long iron player. He drives it crazy straight, which again, I think that could end up being a big factor this week. The next range, which is 7 to 8K, which I do think there's a lot of value in the 7 and the 6K range. For me, I keep going back between two guys. Daniel Berger, he's 7,900, and I believe Keegan Bradley is 7,300. These guys play really difficult golf courses well. They're elite ball strikers, and both of them, when they get hot with the putters, they have great weeks. What I love about them is even when they putt, well, we can just say it bad, like, because they'll have bad putting weeks, they're still usually finishing in the top 30 because they're just such elite ball strikers. Bradley can still really move it off the tee. Berger excels with his long irons. I think there's real value in both of those guys. And again, if you're going to try to build the lineups with Scheffler and, say Rory and DeChambeau, or just any combination of those guys, 10K and above, you're going to need to probably play two guys in the 7K range, one, fairly cheap playing like the 55 to 6,500 range. And then you can probably have one other guy in the 8K range. But those are the guys I like in that range. Jake, who do you like in the 7 to 8K range?
Yeah, we noted this a couple times throughout the podcast. Putting is going to be super important at this event. So how do I not go with Sam Burns, who is one of the elite putters? Yeah, one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. He also nukes the ball off the tee. You kind of have to pray that the irons aren't horrific, which they haven't been. He's still losing strokes to the field pretty consistently. I think he's lost 7 or 8 events in a row now, but that's built into the price at 7,700. I'm projecting him to come in around 5% owned. But this is a guy that could putt the lights out and win a golf tournament with his putter. He had a 46 at the Masters, which is but following that, a T13 at the RBC Heritage, a T5 at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. So coming in with some solid form, and he also has a T13 last year at Quail Hollow. So I think that there's some meat on the bone to play Sam Burns this week.
He's sneaky long too, right?
Yeah, he's long off the tee. He could hit it.
Yeah. So when it comes to DFS, we always, talk about all these metrics and all these stats we follow, and then we find guys that kind of break the rules. And I think I'm going to go with a guy here, Siwoo Kim at 7,700. What I really like about Siwoo Kim, though, is I found this to be a very big surprise. He's first on tour in par 5 average scoring for whatever reason, while not being extra long off the tee. So, when it comes to majors, when it comes to golf courses like this, the bulk of your scoring will be done on the par 5s. You need to capitalize on those par 5s, and Siwoo Kim is doing that with the best of them, leading the tour and doing that this year for whatever reason. He's also been very good around the green, 12th there, 13th tee to green. It's the putting that we always kind of, as Jake always says, plug our nose and kind of move past. Hope that he can find a few putts because, again, that putting is horrific. He's had some good performances as of late as well. What was it, 17th last week, 15th at Byron Nelson, 8th at the Heritage, and 3 of his last 4 starts. PGA history hasn't been great, but 16th at Quail Hollow a season ago, but again, always exceptions to the rules. We talk about this all the time when it comes to our models. There's always those guys that pop for whatever reasons, and that is the par 5s and the around the green work for Siwoo Kim. And again, when it comes to DFS, you're playing 5-6 guys. They all can't win a golf event at the same time. So you got to find value where value is. And I think Siwoo Kim not being extra long off the tee is going to be a low ownership type of guy who is killing the par 5s this season.
Yeah, so for the 6K range, which again, I do think that there's some real values in here. There's 2 guys that really stand out for me. One is Stefan Jager, who, again, has a great track record at this event. He hits it plenty far off the tee. And what has been impressive to me is he's really improved his short game. And we've seen this now where the evolution of his game. He was not super long, and he was losing just his ability to compete on a week-to-week basis because of that. So what's he do? Get a ton of extra club speed, and now he can just absolutely, he has a gear that, just about, very few guys on tour can match or outdo. But now it's his putting and chipping that is really carrying him. Like his strokes gains numbers, both around the greens and on them, his scrambling numbers all are outstanding. And again, he's got a great record at this venue since the remodel in 2018. The other guy for me is Bud Cauley, who I think people are really sleeping on this guy this week. He's somebody who finished 33rd at the 2017 PGA. And just think about how long the road has been for him to get back to a major championship. I know this means a lot to him, and he is playing incredible golf across the board. He does everything you want. He drives it straight. He's a great long iron player. He's very good around the greens. He doesn't make a lot of bogeys. He plays par fours well. Like, he is one of, I think it's 9 guys in the field above average in scrambling. What is it? It's scrambling, strokes gained around the greens, strokes gained putting, and strokes gained total on difficult courses. So that, again, if you think like me, this is actually going to play tougher. And the history of Quail Hollow is it will, because it was first on the PGA Tour toughest in 2017 when the PGA was held there. Every year since, it's been 8th or lower on the list of hardest courses on the tour for that season. I think that makes Cauley a real bargain. And again, at 6,200, he's one of my favorite kind of players because he's cheap. And I feel really confident he's going to make the cut, like really confident. And I think that there's a very good chance he's in contention. Nate, who's your guy kind of in the 6K range?
Yeah, on my article on WeKnowFantasy.com, I have Bud Cauley listed this price range as well, but my favorite is David Puig, 6,500. You talked about him already.
Oh, yeah, upside.
In reference. But, man, so on Live, only John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau have a better average finishing placement through 7 events than Puig so far this season. The 30th at Korea kind of throws things off, but prior to that, 13th at Mexico City, 14th Miami, 4th Singapore. Played in just one PGA Championship prior, missing the cut, whatever, making this Quail Hollow debut. But he is long off the tee. He does everything you want at this golf course. He's extremely young, 23 years old. He was actually one of those guys straight out of college signing with Live, never played the PGA Tour event prior to joining Live. He was one of those like next stars the PGA Tour that Live scooped up in their attempts. But man, he seems to find my DFS lineups every single major because of what he does and the value he offers. But with only Rahm and DeChambeau having better placement finish or average placement finishes on Live than him, I had to go with him here at 6,500.
He's averaging 330 yards driver distance too on Live. So you want to talk about guys that can move it. He will be able to also, I should have mentioned him, and the guys that can really take advantage if he's driving the ball straight and be, literally 70, 80 yards in front of, the guys he's playing with.
And I think because I know he's more of a name now than a few years ago, but with the move straight from college to Live, the casual fan, the casual viewer don't know of David Puig because he never has been on the PGA Tour before. So I think that has a built-in factor when it comes to DFS, especially ownership numbers.
Absolutely. Jake, who you got in the 6K range?
Yeah, I took my chances here, right? I wrote 2 players per each range, both covered here. Bud Cauley, I love. David Puig, I love. But another guy that I have lined up here is Ryan Gerard. He has had an absolutely incredible year, 6K flat. He's kind of faltered off the last 2 weeks. He missed the cut at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, finished T42 at the Truist, and that's the only reason he is priced at 6K flat. If he had kept up his run of form where he had 3 top 20 or 3 top 15 finishes in his last 4 starts, he would probably be in the mid 7K range. And I think that's a really good opportunity to run him back here. He just does everything averagely well, but has the ability to spike in each area of the game, which is super important. He has plus distance off the tee, but he's a great total driver. He also finds a ton of fairways. The approach play, he has the ability to spike with his irons, to spike around the greens, and to spike with the putter. So a week that he could put that all together could be a week that we see Ryan Gerard we could see Ryan Gerard contend if he puts it all together. From an outright perspective, I'm not sure I can get there. From a DFS perspective, I absolutely love it because he has that high ceiling.
All right, the 5K range. You guys playing any guys in cash this week in this range? And if so, who do you have?
there's a few options here, and I think Michael Kim would be the most notable one, although with the injury last season or last week with the withdrawal. And again, just the name value is going to spike him up a bit when it comes to ownership, especially in this price range. You can't play anyone over 1% owned, and Michael Kim definitely will be that. But I do like Thorborn Olsen here, 80 or 5,800. He's 10th on tour in bogey avoidance. He's 12th in three-putt avoidance. He, doesn't make many mistakes. He's 17th approximate hole for 175 plus, 21st in green regulations, 26th tee to green. The list goes on and on, 7th last week, the One Flight Myrtle Beach Classic, 29th at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, 5th of the Valero Texas Open as of late, 53rd last season, the Valhalla. Making a cut, I think he can do it, and that's exactly what you need out of this 5K price range. You just need to have a guy make a cut, get yourself into the weekend for those bonus points.
Yeah, I think it's really scary, the two plays that I'm going to say. One of them I love. One of them you need to be on your game. It's Gary Woodland at 5,800. He could withdraw 3 minutes before the tournament starts. So if you are not ready to make a quick adjustment or have the risk of him withdrawing,
I appreciate DK at least sending us the updates now. Like that's something that they'll tell you now somebody's out or whatever, which
they need to do as a sponsorship with all these betting books and stuff now.
I appreciate him doing it though.
Yeah, definitely. But if he withdraws after he starts, that's where the trouble lies. So you're kind of taking a risk playing him. But if you look at his history at Quail, it's just awesome. I think he has 6 top 25 finishes dating back to 2014. Including a 22nd in 2017 when the major was played here. He had a good run of form this year. He's made a ton of cuts. I think it's now 5 in a row. He had a T34 last week where he spiked on approach. He carries a lot of plus distance off the tee. There's a lot to like about Gary Woodland, but my favorite play in DFS this week, I said that I've hammered the ladder across him in the outright market, the placement markets. It's Eugenia Chikara at 5,800. He's a DP World Tour guy. He's an absolute superstar. 5,800. He's going to come in sub 3% ownership. I'm playing him 100% exposed in all of my lineups. So if he misses the cut, I'm going for gold here with him. But he was actually on Live. He then moved to the Asia Tour where he was removed from Live. And since joining the DP World Tour in 4 starts, he has 4 top 20 finishes, including a win. So I think that this is a superstar in the making. $5,800. I think he's a diamond in the rough that should be played in DFS this week.
I love that. I'll have to check that out. Again, I've got so many lineups still to build. Before I give my guy in the 5K range, want to thank Ronnie for giving more good information on Bud Cauley. Good drive percentage 16th, strokes gained putting the last 12, 26, strokes gained approach last 24, 10th, strokes gained off the tee last 36, 36, green and regulation percentage 36, bogey avoidance 19th, and then strokes gained total 11th. Again, Cauley's a baller. I just think this is so big for him with what he's been through that I kind of expect him to ball. But the guy this week that I am way too confident about, but it's the Finnish star, Sami Valmäki, 5,500. His game to me really should equate here. He is somebody that can hit it far enough. Like he averages right around 300 yards off the tee. He's playing great. He's finished 39th or better in 6 of his last 7. But it's the statistics and 2 of the biggest ones I'm looking at to me that are really important. He's 13th in strokes gained approach. He's 9th in strokes gained putting. He's 18th on tour on approaches of 200 plus yards. And I mean, that's really kind of what I'm looking at, especially for a guy in the 5K range. He's confident right now. And if he putts the way he has been the last 5-6 events, which has been as good as just about anybody over that span. And then again, if he can just get the ball in the fairway, which I believe he can, especially I think the wet conditions will actually help him because again, he's one of the better players on tour for 200 plus yards. So it's not the end of the world if he loses a little distance. It's more important that he can find the fairways. And one of the big concerns coming into this was, would it be so firm and fast that it's, really hard to hold the fairways unless you hit it at the perfect angle or you just hit the ball extremely high off the tee. I think that all this rain is going to make it easier to find the fairway, but the problem is going to be you're going to be so much further back. So you're going to need guys, if that's the case, that are very good around the greens, which he is. He's a great putter. And then again, he's a great iron player from 200 plus yards. So he is somebody that I am putting in a ton of lineups because it lets me kind of, I don't know, just have a lot of freedom. 5,500, you can do a lot. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that guy's name again, Ronnie. Jake, will you do that for me so that way I don't feel like a country bumpkin?
Yeah, Eugenio Chikara or Eugenio. That is the way to pronounce it properly.
5,800, Ronnie.
Yeah,
On the
5,800
flag.
And I'm serious. I'm gonna start tinkering with some because I want to see what I can do with having him and Valmecki in a lineup because I think that would really free me up to potentially because I do think that's one way in cash to eliminate the high ownership of some of those guys we're talking about is if you have say Rory, Bryson, and JT, and you can find three guys, say they're Bud Cauley, Valmecki and Shakira, that you can put in a lineup. That's going to make you unique, and that's obviously we talk about in DFS football all the time. There's two ways to be unique. You can either be unique in the sense that you play guys that are all relatively low owned, or you can play some guys that are going to be really high owned, but then also have guys that nobody's going to have in their lineup, which is the way to kind of end that. So the betting plays, which is really what we're here to do. Again, the three of us have had our fair share of winners in the last year, which is always good news. I probably just jinxed us. I apologize. That's where my co-host Ryan would be like, Keith, what are you doing? But the betting card, again, I talked about it. I am going to play Rory plus 450. I've been on a heater, so I'm just going to up the units. Obviously, I'm going to throw some other flyers too, but I mean, he's finished T12th or better, 4-7 PGA Championship. I think the playing wet and long only actually enhances his chances of running away of it. He's won 2 majors in these type conditions where he's just had one of those great driving weeks. And when he does that, it's so tough to beat Rory McIlroy, especially at a venue, again, that he's won 4 times. He's the leader in strokes gained total here, scoring average, strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee. He makes bogeys at a 7% less rate than the field on par 4s, which I think that's going to really be the X factor this week is how guys play the par 4s. Obviously, he plays par 5s very well with his distance. And the one that just really sticks out to me is that 3 of his 5 best strokes gained totals ever in his entire career come at Quail Hollow. 5 of his best 10. He likes this golf course very much. Normally, I never recommend betting somebody at this odds, but with a little bit more on the bank because of the last, 2.5 months, I'm going to take a shot. And also just think that the biggest reason that Rory is doing what he's doing is the improvement with a short game, 9th in putting, 6th in scrambling. And that's a big reason why he is 3rd in bogey avoidance. And that is a scary thing to think of when Rory's not making, big numbers, because that used to kind of be what would get him in trouble, especially in these major championships. Obviously, the key will be to do like he did at Augusta and get off to a good start. I know he kind of ruined all of the good start on the back 9, but it was at least, it was a 72 instead of a 76, which it would have been in recent majors with him kind of throwing up on the back 9. I know both of you guys are really on JT this week. He's the lowest odd guy. You both have, right?
Yep.
Do either one of y'all want to take JT? Because I co-sign this. I also have him on my betting card.
Yeah, you can take it.
All right, I'll go ahead here. Yeah, so 22-1, I have him. I know Jake has him at a future at 28, a much better number than what I have here. But the first of his 2 PGA Championships, he won, of course, here at Quail Hollow back in 2017. So that's always a good course history to have with a victory at a major at the same course they're going to. And very quietly having one of the best seasons on tour to date so far this season. 2nd last week at the Truist. He won the RPC Heritage. 2nd the Valspar, 9th at Genesis, 6th at Phoenix, 2nd the American Express. 8th at Valhalla last season as well, the PGA Championship. Quail Hollow, good results, 21st in 2024, 14th in 23, 26th in 21, and 21st in 18. He's 5th on tour in tee to green and approach, 14th 3-putt avoidance, 26th around the green. 31st bogey avoidance. The list goes on and on. We're all 3 of us are on him for a reason. And, the course history, everything to go along with it. And plus he is playing the best golf he has in many years at this point. So that's why JT's on leading my card.
He's a baller, man. And again, the swagger, what we talked about on the show before, is just like, you can just tell he's a little bit like Rory, like almost in his shoulders and kind of where his head's at when JT, is feeling himself. And right now he is definitely feeling himself. That's a scary thing for the rest of the tour. I do want to mention Bryson real quickly. The main reason I have him here is obviously the elite distance. He's somebody that can also just take advantage of this golf course. But the big thing is the putting numbers are absurd. Like, he's top 10 in course history for strokes gained total at Quail Hollow. But then on top of that, like, the putting numbers, I don't ever remember him putting like this at any other venue. The last two tournaments he played there, again, he averaged 1.7 strokes gained on the greens per round, not per tournament, but per round, and is making over 60% of his 10 to 15 footers, which the average player in the field is making like 23% of them. So if he putts like that, Bryson is going to have a great chance to contend. The issue is going to be if he misses fairways. Like, he's got to drive it straight. But the other reason I'm really high on him is this is a course that the more you can move it right to left, the better it is for you. Think about that's what Rory loves to do off the tee. That is, obviously why Rory's won here so much. So I do like that for Bryson. Who's kind of the next guy you got in the lower odds on this card? And then we'll get into some of those guys that we're asking about, the 40 to 1 and longer odds guys.
Yeah, so I've got one more below 40 to 1, and it's Joaquin Niemann at 35 to 1. It's a little scary because he doesn't have the ideal ball flight for Quail. He has a very low trajectory. When we were preaching to the choir that you got to hold the greens, you got to hit the ball high. To counter that, he has a really, really competent and complete short game, which is nice to see. But he's one of those guys that went over to LIV. He has gotten way better on LIV, and yes, he has not sniffed the top of a leaderboard in a major, but I think that this is the time for Niemann to make a splash. The approach play, like you mentioned before, from 175 plus, he's in that top echelon of players from that distance. He is long off the tee, which is super important. He's a little bit inaccurate, but not to a concerning point. He's relatively average when it comes to that area. I just need him to spike with the putter and to hope that he holds enough greens, because this is his chance to make a splash. And I'm kind of calling my shot here at 35 to 1. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm going to preach it from the rafters. Niemann 35 to 1. This is where he makes his splash. He's going to contend and possibly win this week.
Yeah, he's not one of the best guys from plus 175. He is literally first on approaches in this field from 175 plus yards. So I completely agree with you. If he can drive the ball relatively straight, I think he's going to be right there. And he needs it, because the one thing he has not done is had a really big major. He's had some big wins. Even the event that he won on the PGA was a big event, but he has not yet sort of done that next stage. But to be fair to him, he hasn't really had that many major starts still. He's still, obviously super young. So, Nate, who's the next person you got on your card?
Yeah, so my next guy is beyond that 40 to 1 measure, and it's Viktor Hovland at 55 to 1. And, this isn't really a model play, a stats-based play, which if you've ever followed me, 95% of what I do is stats-based, and everything I do in models and all of that. But either way, Viktor Hovland, he plays the PGA Championships rather well. He was third last year at Valhalla, second at Oak Hill in 2023, plays Quail Hollow rather well as well. That's kind of hard to say, but 24th in 2024, 43rd in 2023, 3rd in 2021. Most recently 54th at the Truist, but prior to that, 13th at the Heritage, 21st at the Masters, won the Valspar, 9th on tour and proximate hole for 175 plus. We talked about that. 11th on approach, 20th in par 5s, 50th in green regulations, 59th tee the green. The problem, of course, in any week Viktor Hovland tees it up is the around the green work. We talked about it already extensively on the other podcast. It's one of those that you just hope that the need is not there, that he holds enough greens with the high ball flight that he can and will use this week. In a matter of getting the ball there, he putts rather well on Bermuda as well, not too bad. it's around the green work. You just got to hope and pray that it is not needed, that he can hold enough greens to be in contention, and that's basically it there.
No, I like that. And again, Corey, I hope you're still listening. Sorry that we're just now getting to your question, but we did want to go through all the other stuff. Somebody I got that's in that range, won last week, Sepp Straka, 61. It feels to me disrespectful. Again, he's won twice. Outside of Rory, nobody on the PGA Tour has done that this season. Form matters. He's obviously in great form. But his game's just, to me, so tailor-made for this course. He's 14th in driver accuracy, one of the best iron players in the world, second stroke gained approach. He is, what is he? He's, again, 53% of the irons are coming or approaches from 175 plus yards. He's very good from those numbers, 14th from 175 to 200. He's 15th from 200 plus yards. And if he puts in chips like he did last week, I have no doubt he's going to be right there again. And the big thing is just he has the belief right now, which we know is so important, that he can win. And he's proved, obviously, with 2 wins, in a short period of time, that he can not only, believe he can win, he is getting victory. So, Jake, who you got next kind of in this range?
Yeah, I've got Patrick Cantlay at 45 to 1. The notorious backdoor top 10, top 5 finisher. He never really sniffs the lead in contention. He kind of just backdoors it like we saw it last week. Never really had a chance to win the tournament, but finished T4. 45 to 1. I had, in our Discord, had a full conversation with someone saying, Patrick Cantlay is a loser. I'm never going to bet him. Why would I take a guy who hasn't won in years at a major championship? And then they hung a 45 to 1 in my face, and I immediately took it. So
it's like
a little
catnip, huh?
Exactly. A little hypocritical on my part, but I think that the risk you're taking is baked into that number too well to not take your chance on it, because like we had talked about, his ball striking is just in such an insane form right now that you can't ignore it. He's hitting the ball so well with his irons. He has plus distance off the tee. He's a complete driver. What holds him back is he just cannot make enough putts, it seems, to get himself into contention and play when it matters on Sunday. He seems to always be in that top 20 mark, and then all of a sudden has a great Sunday and finishes top 10. I'm kind of hoping that he gets off to a fast start, which we've mentioned is important in majors. If he gets off to that fast start and can kind of just coast with some solid putting and making enough putts here, the ball striking and the off the tee will carry him. 45 to 1, I think, is more than enough value to take a chance.
Absolutely. Nate, it made me feel really good that you were on this guy, because I am betting him to win top 5, top 10, and top 20, and it's everybody's favorite villain. Why don't you tell everyone why Patrick Reed should be on your betting cards?
Yeah, talked about on the DFS segment already. Again, we're all in the same boat here. Ryder Cup year. We want Team USA to win, right? And I think doing so, Patrick Reed needs to be on this team. He plays tough golf courses better than anyone in the world, scrambles better than anyone in the world, and to get him in that Ryder Cup team, a victory this week would all but assure that to happen. 90 to 1 is insane value baked in with the live preference here. We talked about it already in DFS, all of that. Won't really reiterate everything to a point, but man, 90 to 1 is insane value. You're talking about a guy who is a Masters champion. I think he's won 8 times on the PGA Tour, somewhere around there already. And it's not like he's 45, 50 years old. He's still in the prime of his career.
Yeah, and this course wasn't exactly playing short in 2017, and he finished runner-up that year. So I think that Reed is a great play, and the harder this course and tournament plays, which I think is going to play very difficult with them talking about not mowing the rough and just everything going on, I think that's good for Reed because he's so good around the greens. I have to mention Justin Rose. He's 110 to 1. Kind of similar to your Cantlay deal. Like, I know it's been so long since Rose has won a major. However, though, with Tiger's win in 2019, Rory's win this last year, Phil at the PGA, like, we're seeing more and more of these longer gaps in between these guys' victories. And I don't know if anybody has ever been closer than Justin Rose. He is one of the true, like, great major players to only have just one major victory and 5 straight, top, was it, I think 10s or top 20s in the PGA Championship, excels on long, difficult courses. And I know the form he hasn't played great since the Masters, but he wasn't playing great going into the Masters. And then he just turns it on. It's almost like he's again, another guy that's kind of adapted Koepka's, motto of, look, what's going to really define my career at this point is winning another major. And I think that these are the kind of venues he has the best chance at because, Augusta obviously is a little bit different, but the other majors, he needs it not to be a scoring fest. He needs it to be sort of a grind and a slog. And I think that's what you're going to get this week. And his short game, though, this year has been incredible. And if he has the ability, like he did at Augusta, to kind of turn on the tee to green thing, it's something Nate pointed out. The strokes gain, again, over the last 4 years, the breakdown of tee to green and strokes gain putting for winners, it's 60% to 40% at Quail Hollow. At Augusta over that same period, it's 92% tee to green to 8% putting. So putting is so important at this venue, or at least has been in the last 4 years. So that's going to, be a big factor. Jake, who's one of your long shots you got?
Yeah, I'll talk about this long shot here. It's going to be Keith Mitchell at 130 to 1. Kashmir Keith, first round leader Keith Mitchell. I think it's, Nate, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 3 or 4 on the season he has at this point.
I don't have this.
He has the lowest first round scoring average through this part of the season of any player in PGA Tour history.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's been absolutely nuclear. It's insane. A ton of people have made a ton of money just betting him first round leader blindly this season, and just it's worked out nicely. But coming into this week, he's playing some incredible golf. 5 top 20 finishes in a row for Keith Mitchell, obviously heavily backed on that first round performance, which we mentioned. It's important to get off to a hot start in majors, and Keith Mitchell seems to be the guy primed to do that. He's hitting the ball really nicely. He has plus distance off the tee, finding the fairways as of recent, which is good because he can struggle with accuracy. The approach play has been great. The putter's actually been green for Keith Mitchell, which is a little scary. He's a solid around the green player too. So I think at 130 to 1, I know he hasn't gotten over the finish line, but all the stats are pointing to Keith Mitchell having success very soon. And I think that despite this being a major championship, Quail Hollow is a good course for Keith Mitchell to play well on. So add in a couple live guys here, and I'm not all that scared. I think Keith Mitchell 130 to 1 has a lot of value.
Yeah, a big deterrence to Keith Mitchell is wind play, and there isn't much wind here at Quail Hollow, so I think that's plays in as well. There's always a joke, the slightest bit of wind will derail any form of Keith Mitchell round. So I think Quail Hollow is a good place for him to succeed.
Nate, you got any other long shots you want to discuss?
Yeah, I got 2 I can run through real quick for you. Another one
sure.
In that 130 to 1 price range, I really like his Maverick McNeely. Has that rare combination of plus distance and elite putting off the tee. You don't see a lot out of a makeup on the PGA Tour. He's 21st on tour in strokes gained putting Bermuda. 29th or 26th, in green regulations, 30th on approach. So some good approach numbers along the way as well. 60th last week of the Tourist Championship, throw out the window. 3rd of the RPC, 32nd of the Masters, 3rd at the Valero, 32nd in Houston, 2nd of the Genesis, 9th in Phoenix, 8th of the Century, 23rd last week of Valhalla. I think this is right now, I think he holds the 6th spot when it comes to automatic qualifiers for the Ryder Cup. I think this is a great guy for a Ryder Cup as well. Young, up-and-coming type of guy, and he's another guy. It's weird to say this, I think he's technically the 2nd richest golfer in the world because of his father, who he is. So money really isn't a factor for, Maverick Neely. So we're at this point where he's here to win, and win. I believe he can do that. He won in the fall. So he's got that first kind of taste of victory. I know the fall series is a bit of a Mickey Mouse type of situation, but he has crossed the finish line. Next step would be winning a premier win on the PGA Tour, which would be this week of the PGA Championship. But I think that game of that rare combination of elite distance and putting is what's going to put him over the threshold.
Yeah, and remember, this is the event out of any of them that it's most likely to see a first-time major winner. We just saw it last year with Xander Schauffele. just real quickly, I'm gonna let you guys then plug your great work and your website, podcast, and then we'll get out of here. I do want to mention, I think the top 20 values are really good this week. Patrick Reed, who we like, he's plus 230. Keith Mitchell, who I 100% agree with, he's plus 360, just the top 20. Bud Cauley is plus 400 to top 20. We talked about how much he liked and all the stats for him. And then again, I'm higher on Sammy Valmecca than anybody. He is 7-1 to top 20 as well. Like, I like those bets a lot this week. And if you look at my betting cheat sheet, a lot of my bigger unit bets are actually in the top 20, because this is going to sound disrespectful. It is not meant to be. But the PGA professionals, for every Michael Block, 20 out of 20 are going to miss the cut. And in so many ways, just qualifying to get here, going through, and it is a long process. You play, I think, 3-4 different events, and these guys have real 9-to-5 jobs. Don't forget, it's sort of the reward in itself. And if we get a Michael Block, it's amazing, but it's not going to happen. So that's 20 guys right off the top. So you look at the field and you just go ahead and knock it down. The other thing I really like is it's top 70s and ties make the weekend, so it's easier for guys to make the cut. And in a venue like this, 2 good days on the weekend, just by making the cut, even if you're on the number, can easily get you into the top 20. So I do really like the value in the top 20 this week if you can find people that you like. So, guys, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I always love talking golf with you guys, but I do want to give you guys as much time as you need to just, again, give all the, where people can find all your great work, website, your podcasts, Twitter handles, etc.
All right. Well, you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, at WKF Nate. That's where the bulk of my content, everything ends up on. WeKnowFantasy.com is the website. On there, my weekly in-depth breakdown of PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and LPGA majors, where I really go in depth each and every week of those tours. Full DFS breakdowns for the PGA Tour events there. Full betting cards elsewhere, and course preview, all of that. Beyond that, the podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, search We Know Fantasy. Every roughly Tuesday morning, sometimes Wednesday mornings, you'll find the Out of the Rough podcast, which is myself and Jake, and that's what we really hang our hat on. That's our pride and joy right there. So if you guys would hop over there and give that a listen, Keith will be on. If you're listening to this right now or whenever this comes out, hop over to We Know Fantasy on all forms of podcasting and check out our show with Keith as well. We'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, I think
Jake, real quickly, I'm sorry, that's my fault. Ronnie wanted to know, who was your fave 5K guy? He was distracted.
Oh, yeah, it was Eugenio Chikara and then also Gary Woodland, those two.
Thank you. Oh, you put it in the comments. I'm sorry, Jake.
Yeah, no,
I just
all
saw
good.
That.
All good. But I think that between this podcast and ours, it's a great 1-2 punch for your Tuesday, right? Start your morning with Nate and me, finish your day with Keith, then get all your lineups and outrights and all your placement bets in there and have yourself a week. But you can find myself at the Jake Friedman on Twitter or X. Also, be sure to join our Discord at We Know Fantasy, so you can message me or Nate completely free, no hidden paywalls once you're in there. A great community. We field any questions. We embrace all arguments. We keep it civil, but we like the facts. Even if you just want to jump in there and throw a name, you're going to spark a conversation. I'm sure Chikara is going to get some buzz in the chat later. But again, be sure to join, reach out to Nate or myself so we can get you in and keep those bots out.
Oh, God. Yeah, they're plentiful.
You guys are the best. We will be back next week. Ryan will be back. We missed him tonight. You can check him out. He's not going to be on the air tomorrow, but he will be Thursday and Friday. That's 11 to 1 Eastern. Or excuse me, that's 11 to 1 Central. I always get that mixed up. 12 to 2 Eastern on ESPN Northwest Florida. That's 104.3. You can listen on their YouTube channel. You can download the app. Again, just go to ESPN 104.3. So be sure to check that out. But for Nate, Jake, your boy Keith, good luck. Let's win some money, and we'll see you guys soon.